I'm Owen Bigland. This is the Inside Edge video blog. If you've been a long-time viewer of my blog, you'll know that I don't pay a whole lot of attention to statistics. Yes, I will talk about them every month or two. I'll mostly point to the really only source to get market statistics on the Vancouver market is from the Greater Vancouver Real Estate Board. Every month around the first or second or third of the month, they print their publish their stats package for the prior month. That's really the only true source to get your market statistics. But as I've often said here, I don't pay a whole lot of attention to the statistics because they are vague. They are just way too broad. They break down detached and attached, but in most cases, unless you dig a little deeper, they're not breaking down, one-bedroom concrete condos under 10 years compared to maybe a 40-year-old wood frame in Mount Pleasant or Collingwood. Those markets can be completely different. So it's hard to paint it with a broad brush. And, but I've been telling people for a long time here, when you're buying most buyers, I'll tell you where statistics come into play. Me as a realtor, for sure. When I do my research and I'm getting ready to list a home, I will of course go into the statistics, see what's been selling, what the prices are, the comps in that building or that neighborhood. But the broad stats that you get from the real estate board really aren't going to help me all that much. I'm delving in a lot deeper than that, going into that specific building or comparable buildings, or if it's a house in Renfrew or Grandview, I'm looking at homes that are similar size, similar lot, coming up with the prices. But even better, as I've often pointed out, statistics are pretty vague. This is why you want to hire a pro, a realtor that specializes in Vancouver, does a lot of deals, has a lot of listings, and is always working with buyers, because that's how you get the true bead on the market. Where the market is headed is the big thing. You can price it, but you also want to know which direction the market's going in. But before I get off on a tangent here, people, in my opinion, pay way too much attention to the day-to-day market statistics that are being endlessly churned out here. Endlessly. And they don't mean a whole lot, because most people, the vast majority of people, are buying a principal residence. And if you're buying your principal residence, that is a 20, 30, 40, 50-year need. Now, you might move up market later on. You might live in a one-bedroom for 10 or 15 years or whatever, sell it and move up. Or you might buy a detached home, live in it for 20 or 25 years, and then downsize. But it's a long-term need. It's also a necessity. There is no alternative. It's the Tina effect. You're either an owner or you're a renter, and I've done 20 or 30 blogs on the benefits of home ownership as opposed to becoming a lifetime renter. So when you're saving for the down payment and getting ready to buy your principal residence, where the market statistics are and what people are churning out saying that the market's going to take a correction this year or next year, in the next 3 months or 6 months, should make very little difference to you. You're buying that house. You're not flipping it in 6 months or next year. You're going to buy that home and live in it for 20 or 30 years. And this is a real problem. Now, when I started 35 years ago, and that's how long I've been buying and owning real estate in Vancouver, it was in some ways it was maybe a lot easier because we didn't have the internet. We didn't have this bombardment of these statistics and information, of which most of it is garbage. A lot of it is by fakes and phonies with no track record, no transparency. Most of them have a narrative that they're trying to push, and that is usually that the market's crashing because they don't own any real estate, and they churn out this negative stuff in hopes that they're going to have some influence on the market. It can go down so they can buy in, which is an absolute joke. As I've often said, I've got 5,000 subscribers to this channel. I could do 1,000 of these channels and either hype up real estate or do a doom and gloom channel. I could do 100 of these channels, 200 of these channels, and it would have no impact on the Greater Vancouver real estate market. None. This is a $200 to $250 billion annual business. Somebody tweeting out cherry-picked data that the market's going to crash has no bearing on the market. They're just wasting their time. But buying a home and buying your principal residence is a 20, 30, 40-year need. You should care very little about what the market is going to do 3 months from now or 6 months from now or even next spring. My advice to you, and I think I come from authority here, There's not very many people that have got the track record I've got and been in this business and seen the ups and downs of this Vancouver market over the last 35 years. Very few have that level or that many years in this business. I've seen it all. I'm telling you that forget timing a market. Save for the down payment. Get yourself a realtor, a good experienced realtor. Look at some homes. Set what you need, 1 bedroom, 2 bedrooms, break it down to the neighborhood, and when the right unit comes up, you pull the trigger and put an offer in on it. You know, it's never going to end, these people that are going to tell you that the crash is just around the corner. I mean, you're seeing that now. You saw some of these guys, of course, making their predictions back in the new year, saying that the Vancouver market's overheated, it's going to crash this year. That didn't work out. January, February, and the first 2 weeks of March were very strong. Prices were up. Sales were up, inventory very minimal, very few good homes on the market. When they did get listed, they got sold very quickly. COVID comes along, shuts the whole market down for 2 months, 2.5 months, and of course some of these guys double down. You know, this is my opportunity. The market's going to finally crash. We're going to go into a recession or a depression here. Everyone's going to be out of work. We're all going to die. Now I see these guys that I did the blog last couple of weeks ago. The market has rebounded quite nicely here, probably stronger than I really thought it was. A lot of pent-up demand, and our busy spring season has now been pushed into the summer. That's really what it's done. It's delayed our spring season into the summer. Market's very strong right now. Very little good inventory. Most good homes are selling very quickly, and I'm starting to see a lot more multiple offers, even multiple offers now on good starter level detached homes at East Van. But some of these guys are doubling down. I saw one guy saying, hey, just give it another 6 months. We can't evaluate the statistics right now. It's a fear of missing out now is what they're talking about. They've always got another excuse as to why the market's lifted again. Now it's a FOMO. It's a delay of the spring market. It's the 1.99% interest rates. But just wait, give it another 6 months. In my opinion, if you're buying a principal residence and saving and you've got the down payment, you're pre-approved at 1.99 or 2% interest rates, when the right property comes up, whether that's a 1-bedroom condo or a detached home in Grandview, pull the trigger on it, buy it. What the market does 6 months from now is going to be of no concern to you unless you're a speculator. If you're a flipper, and you're buying homes and fixing them up and flipping them, then maybe you want to pay a little attention to where the market might be going or where these stats are coming. But remember, the stats don't really tell you much, and these people that are predicting these crashes, even CMHC, they don't really know. They're just guessing at it. It's a coin toss, heads or tails. So don't play that game. I've been pounding this for 10 years. Do it the way the smart people do. They just systematically buy. When they have the down payment, they're ready to go, they're pre-approved, the right property comes up, you buy it. Live in it, enjoy it, review it in 10, 15, 20, or 30 years. And just ignore this short-term churn, endless churn of statistics. You know, when I started out, it was a lot easier 30 plus years ago. We didn't have the internet. We didn't have all this market data being churned out. You know, back then, this is how old I am, you know, the MLS, there was no MLS on the internet. The MLS, they were books. They were like a phone book, and they were printed every 2 weeks. They were so dated. By the time you got the book, a lot of times the homes in there, you would call the realtor, they were already sold. But that's how the system worked. There was no statistics on where the market's going. It was you just bought. You saved your money and bought and held it and moved up the ladder or continued to buy other properties. It was a simple process. Now I think people are bombarded with way too much information, especially these statistics and these predictors. And, you know, this guy that was on the news a couple of months ago saying that, you know, Vancouver real estate was going to go down 20 or 25%. I don't know how he even got onto these mainstream media outlets. He fooled them because this guy has no background. Those people are always going to be out there. And I'm telling you to just tune it out. Buy your principal residence, enjoy it, evaluate it in 20 or 30 years, because real estate is not a tradable commodity, as I've often said. It's incredibly expensive to buy with the property transfer tax and your conveyancing fees and possibly GST, and it's really expensive to sell. to liquidate. I'm going to charge you, if it's $1 million condo, you're looking at $27,000, $30,000 in commissions I'm going to charge you to sell that house. You're also looking at another set of conveyancing fees. If it's an investment property, you've got capital gains tax you've got to pay on it. So don't play that trader's game. This constant churn of statistics, you're best to ignore it. Statistics are really only useful for realtors, as I say, when I'm getting ready to price a home. But even then, I can tell you that I don't even use the statistics all that. They don't play a huge part in my pricing. Because I'm a top performing 1% realtor, and I've always got lots of listings. I'm holding 9 listings right now, and I'm always working with buyers. I'm selling homes every single week. So I have a very good bead on where this market is trending, where it's going, how much activity I'm seeing from my showings, what kind of offers I'm getting. Are they offers at very close to asking? Am I getting multiple offers, or are they lowball offers? That tells you a lot about where the buyers are at and where that market's trending. And that's what you're paying a good experienced realtor for. Not for him or her to read statistics. It's to go one step beyond that. Because the statistics, as I say, are incredibly vague. But if you're a buyer, you don't need to focus on them. Keep your blinders on, save your down payment, buy your principal residence and get in, take advantage of the principal resident exemption, and who cares what the market does 6 months from now? Unless, of course, you're a speculator, and that's a tough game to play. So that's 1% of the market right now, 2%. Most people are buying principal residence, or they're buying an investment property. And with the investors I work with, they're investors, they're not speculators. They're buying good quality homes, whether it's a detached Vancouver special or a 1-bedroom condo downtown here, and they're putting tenants in them and keeping them for long periods of time. So if you pull the trigger on a 1-bedroom condo today at $650 and next year it goes down to $625, who cares? I've often said too to people that I've bought a lot of real estate over the years, over the last 33, 34 years. I could care less when I've bought, whether it was a buyer's market, a seller's market, or a balance market. It had no bearing on my purchase. All I did was save the money. Once I had enough money for the down payment and I got pre-qualified, I would then hunt for the right unit in the right building. I'd have a search list that I kept an eye on. When the right unit came up, I offered on it. And I bought recently, 2016, I bought an investment condo. And that was in a seller's market. 2017, I bought a new property, but a substantially expensive principal residence downtown. That was in spring of 2017. Market was hot. I was getting into bidding wars. People at that time were saying, paying $1.5 million, $2 million, you're crazy. Market's going to take a crash here, don't you know? My wife and I were qualified, ready to go. When the right unit came up, missed out on my first 2, got into a bidding war. The third time was the charm. I could care less what people were saying at that time that the market was going to go down. I was buying a principal residence. I was planning on living it for at least 8 to 10 years, maybe longer. So tune a lot of this stuff out. Too many people focus way too much on statistics, and that's why I've often said the bar is set low. It's teaching these people to look at real estate like it's some sort of a stock, and it's not. It's a roof over your head. The alternative is to rent. And the final thing I'll just leave you with, there's some guy out there now, he's been wrong for so long now. Years ago he was on the radio saying the market's going to go down, it's going to crash. It's always overpriced in his opinion. Earlier this year, he was calling for a huge correction. Now he's doubled down with the coronavirus, and he's saying, well, hey, I wasn't expecting the market to take off like this, but hey, just give it another 6 months. Just give it another 6 months. Let, the corona fallout hit. We're going to go into a recession. People are going to default on their mortgages. Well, often what I've been telling people, and I know some of the media is picking up on this finally, but I was the first one to tell you guys about this back in March. The coronavirus has had very little impact on Vancouver buyers. So these are people that are paying $700K for a 1-bed, paying $1.7 for a Vancouver special in Renfrew, or paying 2.5 for a starter home and kits. They were not affected by the corona. These are tech workers, professionals making 100, 200, 300K a year. It might have a bigger impact out in the Fraser Valley, but I don't work that market and I don't even follow it. But they're doubling down on it. But here's the thing, just wait another 6 months. Just wait another 6 months. There's guys out there that have been saying this for years. Just wait. But here, and I've done blogs on this and I talk about it in my book. And prices could very well go down 5 or 10% at this time, by this time next year. That's what markets do. They go up and down. But I can tell you that in 6 months, if the market's on a bit of a slide and prices are easing down, inventory's up, and we're shifting more from a seller's market into a buyer's market on condos, you won't be able to buy. The vast majority of them will not be able to pull the trigger. It's just a psychological thing that I have seen over and over and over again. You won't be able to pull the trigger. Prices are coming down. The doom and gloom will be heavy on the news now. And you're going to buy $1 million condo in Yaletown? It's not going to happen. You're going to say to yourself and to your wife, hey, forget about buying. Prices are off 5%. Hey, why would we buy now? Joe at work told me that prices are going to go down 20. You won't be able to pull the trigger in a down market. Very few people can. I can. I've done it many times and I do it all the time in the stock market. I was buying hand over fist in March and early April. I have a timeline on my Twitter feed and you can see what I bought there. But most people were selling at that time. But I've been in this business for a long time. But very few people, average Joes, waiting 6 months, and if the market does participate and it's dropped 5%, you won't be able to pull the trigger. Most people won't be able to pull the trigger until it starts going back up again. Very difficult to time a bottom. I've done so many blogs on it. So tune out a lot of the statistics. I think it hurts people a great deal that focus on some of these doom and gloomers and just wait another 6 months, and you know, you've got these guys on Twitter that are endlessly pointing to some overpriced detached house in Fairview or Canby that sells at $100,000 below tax assessed, which doesn't mean anything. That tells you that the market's crashing. These guys do not know what they're talking about. They've got an agenda. And it's best to probably tune them out. It's funny because I had a couple of guys, one guy that blogged or commented on my YouTube channel. He had said he's been watching me for 7, 8 years and didn't, you know, it was a hard, you know, spoon of medicine to take 7 or 8 years ago. The positive, you know, mindset I was telling you guys about, and to just buy and hold your principal residence, because he said he was in the process of saving for his down payment and was hoping the market would come down to help him out. It didn't do that. He bought now, and of course now his mindset has totally changed. He's glad he did buy and pull the trigger, and now that he's in the market, he pays very little attention to now this endless churn of statistics and everything else, and good for him. He's doing it the right way. Enjoy your house. Take a look at it in 10 or 15 years when you're ready to move up or downsize or whatever, and you're going to do fantastic. Don't play the trader's game and ignore most of these statistics. They don't mean anything to you. For a realtor or a speculator, sure. And even me as a realtor, I can tell you, I'm going way beyond the stats. It doesn't give you the true story on how to price a property. It's more specific to buildings, the location within the building. I mean, I can tell you stories back 10 years ago, you know, when we were in a buyer's market. Prices were coming down, strong buyer's market. You would get a good listing in some of the good stratas that I like to buy in on. The good stuff. And damned if it wouldn't get into a multiple offer situation and sell 30 or 40K over asking. That's the difference. That's why you can't rely on statistics. The statistics would tell you the market's crashing and it's in a strong buyer's market. But the good ones hit, the right unit sells over asking price, favors the seller. So you got to go a lot deeper than the statistics, but ignore most of them. Save for your down payment, buy your principal residence. If you want to wait 6 months, no problem. You know, I'm not telling you to, you do what you want to do. I'm just telling you how I've always done it, systematically bought when you're able to, and if the right unit comes up, pull the trigger. But if you really want to wait 6 months, totally fine with that. It's your call. But remember the blogs I've done so many on these, on what you have to be able to do. Set a time frame, set a time on it. 6 months and we're going to buy. Set a strike price on it. If the prices do go down 5% or 10%, that's your strike price. Otherwise, you will never pull the trigger. It will never be the right time. Remember that. You'll never time a bottom. Best to just ignore it, buy, enjoy your principal residence, and move on. I'm Owen Bigland. As always, thanks for watching. I'll see you next week.